Thank you very much. So Julie mentioned it. So I've been lucky enough to be a part of many different plants around the country and around the world with Cargill and Pentair. So I've been with Pentair about 4 years, and as we do transitions and change things on sites, I'll move to that location. So I'm new to Minneapolis. I was in Milwaukee for almost 3 years doing a major transition, taking 2 sites and merging it into one without doing the expansion. So we had to fit everything, 2 sites into one, can't increase the footprint. Pretty difficult problem. The other problem that just came up today is following Doug. So Doug's a good speaker, you know, engaging. So problems can come up at any time. You can plan for them, and sometimes you can't. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about problem solving, but also learn about problem solving, because every day is learning. So in Minneapolis, been here about 4 months. Right now we're going through a major transition. We're actually closing a facility in the UK and moving it into Minneapolis. So we're bringing a bunch of jobs to Minneapolis, but we're also bringing a lot of equipment. It's a very exciting time, but it's also a major challenge. And we talk about culture. Culture is great. The tools are great, but if you don't have a solid culture, it doesn't matter about the tools. So culture is either intentionally or unintentionally created. So the nice thing about going to different sites all around the country, being dropped into a new site as a site leader in Wilson, North Carolina, or Orlando, Florida, there's already a culture on site, whether you like it or not. And you can also be the driver of that culture. And one thing that I found is consistency is comfort. The focus on math, facts, and data. And then there's 1/3 final element I'm going to save till the end just to make sure you stay awake. So consistency is comfort. What does comfort mean to you guys? Just throw something out there. When you think of comfort, what does that mean?
I know what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen. What else?
No change.
No change. What else?
Predictability.
Predictability. That's a great one. So I spent 7 days in Japan in April visiting customers, and I used solely public transportation. So trains, buses, I didn't rent a car, which is thankful because I probably would have been in an accident. But I took the bus and the trains, and they were so consistent, there was comfort in that. And I thought about, from a leadership perspective, what can I learn from that? They're on time every single time. So when we talk about leader standard work, as a site leader, I'm on standard work every day. My value stream managers, my maintenance team, my leads, supervisors, all are on standard work. What that does is it's posted and audited, just like a bus stop. You know what time it's going to be there. You know where they're going to be. There's that comfort that they're going to be there for the team. We follow set routes. So every day I show up to the plant at the same time every day, 6:45 a.m., plus or minus 2 or 3 minutes. There's people waiting for me at the door, and sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's bad news, but they know what time I'm going to be there, and they also know what time all my team is going to be there. They have set routes. At 9:30 a.m., we have an MDI process, so it's a managing for daily improvement. It's actually a stair-step process that's layered into the plant, but we kick that off at 9:30 every day, plus or minus 30 seconds, because I take attendance. I expect everybody to be on time for 1 meeting a day, and it's that 9:30 meeting. And then one-on-ones. So all my team has 30 minutes of undivided attention at least once a week, if not every other week. It's up to them. But that's their undivided time that they can spend with me to talk about any issues. What I'm trying to do is create that comfort and that speed of trust. So when we talk about speed of trust, when you're consistent and you're predictable, your team starts to trust you immediately. And a lot of times I go into a new site, it'd be in some sort of transformation. I'd be the 6th site leader in the last 12 years. You know, a lot of problems. When I started rolling out standard work right away, that speed of trust was instant. And when we talk about accountability, accessibility is accountability. How many times have you heard, well, I can't find anybody to fix the problem? Or, you know, I don't know where anybody is. Where is everybody? You know, I've got to page people. If you come to one of my sites, we don't have radios and we don't have paging. And the reason why is because we have set times where everybody's going to be from 6:45 in the morning all the way through the day. So there isn't this page like, hey, where's so-and-so, where's so-and-so. Hey, they know where they're going to be there at the cell level MDI at 8:30, 8:45, 9:30, 2 o'clock. There's those set times that everybody can set their watch to, and everybody will be there. So at the bottom there it says, are your heroes in the business firefighters or bus drivers? There's a lot of heroes out there that are firefighters, like, man, they always come and save the day, but then I'm paging for them. I'm trying to find them out. Where are they? Really, my heroes are bus drivers. So the MDI, the Managing for Daily Improvement, that's the vehicle. So MDI, as I mentioned, starts at 9:30 in the morning. It rolls up. So there's a cell level MDI, there's a value stream MDI. They're at different times, and then the 9:30 is a culmination of all the information that was pulled up from earlier in the morning. So the communication's all the way from the cell level, and we focus on SQDCC. So every cell, every value stream, and the entire site measures safety, quality, delivery, cost, and cash. And I'm sure that's not uncommon, but we try to roll it all together. So when we start talking about the point of impact at the cell level, it's the cell team, so everybody at the cell has access all the way to the site leader and the staff. So any problems that bubble up from the cell level, from the point of impact where the value is created, it works its way all the way up to the MDI board. So as a leadership team, whether it's a value stream manager or engineer, when they go to the cell MDI, they see and hear the problems. So we don't sit in conference rooms and talk about problems. They start on the floor. We actually see and hear what the problem is, and we discuss the problem at the site level. We move to the value stream level. That's where really the data comes in. So we talk about the data points, but now we're starting to talk about the math of it. And then at the site level, it's the facts and the math and the data kind of all start to blend together to tell a story for just that day. Consistency is comfort. The next thing is math, facts, and data. So we try to focus on math, facts, and data. So one thing I used to say is focus on the customer. Focus on the customer. That's what we need to focus on. What I started to find out was people were focusing on the customer, but they'd spin it their way. So I'd be on a sales call and they'd be like, hey, you need to deliver this right now. We have to get it done, whatever, all costs, deliver to the customer, right? Customer's number one. But then I'd find out the customer was on credit hold, or we'd be jumping a process. So when I hear, hey, the customer's number one, I say, okay, show me the math, facts, and data. So is it a high margin customer, low margin customer? Are they on credit hold? Show me the math, facts, and data, and that's kind of the building permit for a new process or a change that we need to do. So data is planting the seeds. The nice thing about data is anybody can collect data. What I really like about data is it's kind of a gateway from the cell level, the team on the floor, all the way up to the site level. They can collect data. It doesn't have to be perfect. They don't have to be experts, but they can collect data, and that's really the foundation or the start. The math is where things start to grow. When you look at the math, that takes the me or the personal piece out of it. It's not about me just as me. It's now we're starting to do the math. What is the data telling us, and how do we build that story? When we talk about the facts, it's the environment. And what I mean by the environment, I was at a Manufacturers Alliance meeting last month, and I heard a great acronym. It says WIN, what's important now? And I love that because there's certain facts that we can't control. So we talk about supplier issues, maybe there's credit holds that we're dealing with, maybe there's an issue that we're dealing with. That's a fact. We don't control that, but hey, the sooner we face that fact and move on, the better. So you have the math, you have the data, and the facts are really the environment, and you have to face it to fix it. And the last one down there, I say the 3 R's, so remind, reward, and repeat. If you walk on any one of my sites, previous or current, and you say math, facts, and data, you'll kind of get a laugh. They'll say, well, you must have been talking to Matt. The thing is, that's how I ingrained that culture, is that repetition. But I also reward the team. And what I mean by reward, I write a lot of handwritten notes. I probably write 30 to 40 handwritten notes a month. Because what I want the team to know is that I'm thinking about what they're doing, I'm paying attention to what they're doing, but also I'm rewarding that behavior, that data, that information that they're feeding the business, because that's critical to the business. So taking the time to remind, reward, and repeat. So run the situation to ground. So I mentioned MDI. I'll kind of go a little bit deeper detail. So if you look at the top chart up here, this is a yearly, monthly, and daily look. So back to the data with the employees, they're plotting that data every day. but it rolls up to a monthly view and it rolls up to a yearly view. So why would you think monthly and yearly is important? The trends. And that's the biggest pushback I get from a lot of people is, well, you're looking at day to day. Wow, that's not, you're not looking at the big picture. You have to look at the day to day before you look at the week, before you look at the month, and before you look at the year. You need to look at the whole picture. So the MDI board really looks at the data daily, but it goes a little bit deeper on the second level. So when you get down here, it actually becomes the math. We're looking at that second level Pareto. So what are all the issues that happened in that cell, in that value stream, and on the site? We kind of add the math to it. And then invite the owners. So this is where it's critical. Now that we have the math, facts, and data, that's really the foundation for problem solving. So you've done all the work, you've pulled all the math, you have all the data, we have all the facts. Now, the owners of the process that aren't involved directly can be invited. And the reason why I tell my team that is don't call new product development, don't call engineering, don't call customer service until you have the math, facts, and data. Because the minute you get into a problem solving session and you haven't considered all the information and all the facts, people discount the session. They'll be like, well, you don't have everything, call me when you have everything. So I really expect the team to have that math, facts, and data. I always call them, they're the building permits of a new process. You really have to have that information before we start considering a new process or solving a problem. And one quick thing, problem solving experience. Who's been lost in the woods? Has anybody been lost in the woods? How did you feel when you were lost in the woods?
Nervous, it was our honeymoon.
I won't ask what was transpiring, but who else has been lost in the woods? You? How did it feel?
Kind of a sense of panic when you take a wrong turn.
Panic. That's a great word. And the reason why I have two pictures up here, deeply ingrained paths do not grow new solutions. So when you're lost in the woods and the first path that you see, you almost run for it. You're like a sense of comfort. Oh, that's the path I'm going to take. Well, when we're problem solving, we have to self-trigger on that because a lot of times our own kind of thought processes seep back in because when we're lost and there's a problem, we kind of go back to our normal thought process. We don't really stop and say, wait a minute, am I looking at this the right way? What kind of behaviors am I teaching myself? I need to try something different. So be open. Solutions grow out of being okay, not being okay. So one thing that when we come into a Pentair site, you see a lot of red. And when you see red, you're like, whoa, this is not good. We've got a lot of red metrics. What's going on? The first time I went into a Pentair plant, I was like, they're going to close this plant in a week. I mean, everything's red. And then I started to realize, well, hang on a second. Let's look deeper. I started to become okay with not being okay. And the reason why I had the two paths up there is when things aren't good, people tend to panic. And they revert to their kind of own world and their own thought processes. When you're problem solving as a leader, you got to trigger on that and make sure that the team's comfortable saying, we do have a problem. It's okay. So we have a problem. Now let's methodically go after it. Don't run for that path on the left. Let's look at the options. What are the other options out there? Don't follow that ingrained path because new solutions won't grow out of that well-beaten path. We have to okay being not okay. So the third and final element, I won't ask if there's any guesses, but this third and final element is pretty important, and it took me a while to learn this one because I'm not naturally this kind of person, but you have to have fun. And you say, have fun? What? Well, guys, people are uncomfortable with things being red and problems happening, and you have to be okay with that. As a leader, you have to say, hey, it's okay. You know what? We'll figure this out. Let's take our time. Let's go after it. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of problems, but we have a lot of fun. So on the right there is our MDI at 9:30 in the morning on Halloween. I asked everybody to dress up. Not everybody dressed up, but that's okay. But you know what? We had serious conversations on that MDI, and I took attendance, and I held people accountable, and I asked tough questions, but we still laughed and had fun. The picture on the left, that was in London. We just went through telling the plant team, so I had to sit in front of a plant and tell them, hey, we're closing, we're moving the plant. really tough situation, and yet, hey team, we're gonna go have fun. You know, let's set that aside. Let's focus. So we went out and had fun because, like peas and carrots, laughter and tension go well together. So high-performing teams have fun. Humor is effective. Laughing breaks tension. So one thing I'm always really careful with is when I'm in a meeting and we're really getting to a crucial point in the meeting and it's pretty difficult, I'll pick a time to make a joke. And you say, well, geez, that's kind of silly. You have to make the team feel comfortable when we're dealing with those types of situations. You cannot be intense all the time. When you're intense all the time, people get uncomfortable. Leaders aren't perfect. Not only admit it, but laugh about it. At least once a day, I will make fun of myself. And I'm okay with that. Because I'm not doing it necessarily to like prove a point, but you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable as a person and as a leader. Because what the team says is when there's a really major problem, they're going to feel more apt or more comfortable to bring up the problem and say, hey, I think I made a mistake. And I love to hear that. And I tell the team that, hey, when you tell me you make a mistake, great. Because now we can start to solve the problem. And laughter is confidence. The team realizes you know them well. So there's a picture of cookies up there. So back to that trip, one of my teammates did a great job on the project. And through laughing at each other, he said those were his favorite cookies. So 10 o'clock at night, I went out downtown London. I tried to find these cookies and I found them in the store. Took him up to his hotel room, knocked on the door, and I said, hey, I really appreciate you being you, and I really appreciate all the help that you did. And I gave him the cookies. You know, he thanked me, you know, but I really think that had a big impact on him because now he knows that close personal relationship. High-performing teams have fun, but they also have close personal relationships. And accountability is a key component to that. Again, I can't reiterate that. Accessibility is accountability. When you're accessible to the team at all times and you're available to help solve problems, there's a greater sense of accountability. Like he will always be there or she will always be there for me. So you know what? I'm going to go to him with a problem. I really trust him. So when it all comes down to it, I showed you that picture of Halloween where we're all having fun and dressed up. It all comes down to the accountability board. So you can talk about standard work, you can talk about routes, you can talk about all these great tools, but at the end of the day, we all have to be accountable and execute things. And we publish the accountability. So this is an accountability board where we actually fill out tickets, put them up on the board, and it has a name, a date, and an owner of when it's going to be done. We have to get things done. And so this accountability board goes with our MDI board at a site level. So all the operators, everybody on site can walk by this board and see, hey, what is Matt focused on right now? We're very, very transparent on the problems that we're solving. And I always challenge the team back. If you see something up there that you disagree with, say something. If you see something, say something. There's no quiet disagreement in the plant. We really need to be transparent and publish what we're working on. So again, we talk about consistency is comfort. It's all about trust. The team has to trust you. And going into a new site, new location, you can generate that trust really, really quick by being consistent. It's as little as showing up on time. Just be on time. Math, facts, and data, there's no emotion. And people say, oh, well, Matt, you joke all the time. You can't say there's no emotion. I get very serious about problem solving because I want to take the who or the person out of the problem. I want math, facts, and data. Whether you're a sales guy or you're an ops guy, you know, there's that natural tension. We're going to focus on math, facts, and data. Guys, show me the math, facts, and data. And then finally, have fun. But fun's about accountability. You know, there's that tension where, hey, I missed a date. So when I talk about putting dates up on the board, those are real dates. I don't like the team crossing them out and moving a date out. I don't want to do that. So part of that tension is, yeah, we'll have fun, we'll joke around, but guys, at the end of the day, there's a team depending on us at the point of impact where the value is created, depending on us to get things done. As a leader, it's about accountability. So really quick on Pentair, really great company to work for because we focus on water. I mean, we focus on movement of water every day, pumps, nozzles. So the new Brighton plant, pumps and nozzles. It's around agriculture. So mention about agriculture. I started out as a farmer. So I'm staying here today talking about manufacturing, but it really started out in agriculture. And the reason why that's important is there's one lesson out of farming that I learned that I think is important about culture and problem solving. There's one singular lesson, is that nothing is impossible. So there is not one single problem that you have that is impossible. And here's why. So we'd be harvesting at midnight. The combine would break down and we would have no parts, we'd have no light. You know, something was wrong, but you know what? Every single time we figured out the problem. You can overcome anything as long as you have the drive for it. Now here's some elements that will help do that, but in agriculture and farming, you have to overcome things that you don't think you can overcome. And it's the same thing in manufacturing. So every day when a teammate says, well, I don't think we can do that, I always say, well, have we really thought about it? You know, what else can we do? Let's really and really pushing the team. That's part of being a leader too, is really challenging the team to think differently. Again, thank you guys for the time.
Thank you.
All right.